Okay, so first of all, I have a short list of words here, and I'm going to use this list of words to test my formulas. So I'm going to start by searching for words that contains the letter A, and I'm going to do this using the search function. The text that I want to find is the letter A, and then the text that I'm going to be searching within is going to be this list of words here, and enter. And the search function will give me the number for the position where that letter appears in the word. So for the first word, for example, the letter A is the very first letter, so I get the number 1. And for the word beach, the letter A is the third letter in this word, so I get the number 3. And then when a word does not have an A in it, I get an error message. Now I can use the ISNUMBER function and select this column here and enter. And if it is a number, I'll get a true. And if it is not a number, so in other words, it is an error, I'll get a false, which means for every word that has an A in it, I'll get a true, and for every word that does not have an A in it, I'll get a false. Then I can use a filter formula. So the array that I will be searching is my list of words, and then I'm going to be filtering this array based on this column here, and close brackets and enter. And with this filter formula, it will filter just the words that have an A in them. So if I go down to the bottom, you can see that we have about 200 words in this list now. Then the next step is going to be filtering for more than one letter at a time. So what about if I want to search for words that contain both an A and a B? Now this formula doesn't work the way that I want it to, because it's searching for the letters A and B together and in that order, which is not what I want. So in order to fix this, I'm going to split these letters up into separate cells using a mid formula. So this here is the text that I want, and then the start number is 1 and the number of characters is 1, and close brackets and enter, and that gets me an A. Then if I were to change the start number to 2, that gets me a B. So I need to create a sequence of numbers in here using the sequence formula, and then the number of rows is going to be the length function. And the length function counts the number of letters in this cell, and close brackets again and enter. And this gets me the A and B split into separate cells. So the length function here counts the number of letters, which is 2. And then the sequence formula turns this into a sequence of numbers, so 1 and then 2. And then the mid formula splits this. Now I want it to split sideways instead of down, so I'm going to change this here from rows to columns, and then I get the results the way that I want them. I then need to insert another column in here and change the search function to be searching these two cells instead. And now we have 2 columns here, and in the first column we're looking for all of the A's, and in the second column we're looking for all of the B's. And then I need a way of combining these 2 columns together, and I can use the sum function for this. And then I'll double click to send that down. So if a word contains both an A and a B, then I'll end up with numbers in both of these columns, which means that the result will also be a number. If it contains just one of the letters that I want, then I will end up with an error, which means I'll have a number plus an error, which results in an error. And of course, if I have 2 errors, so it doesn't contain an A or a B, then that will add up to an error as well. Then I can use the ISNUMBER function again to test to see whether the values in this column are numbers or not. And then I can filter this list based on this column. Now, in order to get the sum function to spill, I'm going to need to replace this with BYROW. So that means it will add up the numbers row by row rather than adding them all up together. So the array will be all of these two columns, and then the function is going to be sum and close brackets and enter, and I get these same results as I did before. And then this can be changed into an array reference as well. Now let's combine all of these formulas together. So I'll take the ISNUMBER here and copy it and paste it into this cell here. Then I will take this BYROW formula here and copy it and paste it inside the ISNUMBER formula. Then I will take the search formula and copy it and paste it inside the BYROW formula. Then I will take the mid formula and copy it and paste it inside of the search formula. And now I have the whole formula together in one cell. Now let's test this. So if I search for E and T and H, then that will get me a list of words that contain the letters E and T and H. Now I'm going to drag this down a little bit, and I now want to do the opposite test. So I want to search for words that do not contain a particular letter. So I'll search for A and B again, and then I need to adjust these cell references here so they're looking in this cell instead now. And now this formula is not going to be working the way that I want it, because when I was searching for letters that were contained in the word, that was an AND test. So I needed the word to contain both an A and a B. But now I'm searching for words that do not contain these letters, and this is an OR test. So I do not want the word to contain an A or a B, which means this part here no longer works, because this word does contain an A, but when I add it to the error message, I end up with an error at the end, which is not what I want. So I need to fix this, and I'm going to do that by putting an IFERROR formula around all of this. And I'm going to say if the search formula produces an error, I want it to give me a 0 instead, and close brackets and enter. And now you'll see any word that contains an A or a B will end up with a number in this column here. And if we scroll down to find a word which does not contain an A or a B, you'll see we get 2 zeros here, and that adds up to a 0. So what we're going to be filtering for this time is all of the words that add up to 0. So let's create a new filter formula here, and I'm filtering this list of words, and I'm filtering it for values in this column that are equal to 0, and close brackets and enter. And now here I have a list of all of the words that do not contain an A or a B. Now let's put this formula together. So I no longer need this part here, and I can copy this part here and paste it in here. Then I need to copy the IFERROR formula, and we will paste it inside the BYROW formula. And then I need to copy the mid formula and paste it inside the search formula. And now I want to combine these two tests together. So instead of searching through the original list of words, I'm going to be searching the results from this formula here. And I also need to change this cell reference as well. Now this list of words here contain an E, a T and a H, and also do not contain an A or a B. Now the next thing that I want to test for is letters in a particular position. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. And let's say I know for sure that the word begins with an E. Now this test should be relatively easy. I'm just searching for an E within this set of words, and the search formula gives me the position. So any words that begin with an E will have a 1 in this formula. So I can use this with a filter function, and we're filtering this array based on the values in the second column. And we're filtering for any of these values that are equal to 1 and close brackets and enter. And then I get a list of all of the words that begin with E. Also, while we're here, I'll just show you that if I remove the if error part now, this no longer works because I have a bunch of errors in here and the filter formula cannot handle the errors. So I need to keep the if error part inside this formula, and we will copy this and then paste it in here to replace this cell reference. Then instead of filtering for the original list of words, I'm going to filter this list here. And we need to change this cell reference as well. Then instead of having the number 1 be a fixed number, I'm going to change it so that it's linked to this cell. And this gets me just one word. So let's remove the H from here so we end up with an actual list of words. Now if I drag this across, I get a calculation error because this formula is now looking into a blank cell and so it's no longer working. In order to fix this, I need to put an if formula around this, and I'm going to be testing to see if this cell here is equal to 0. And if that is the case, then I just want it to copy the previous list of words. And if it is false, then I want it to do its own filtering and close brackets and enter. Then I need to drag this forwards and also drag it backwards. And then let's add in another test here. So if I put T in here, then the lists get shorter. Also, if I delete these letters here, then the formulas stop working. So I also need to put an if formula around this. And I'll say if this cell here is equal to 0, then I just want it to copy the original list of words here. And if it is not, then I want it to do its filtering and close brackets and enter. And I don't need to do that with this formula here because the does not contain is just searching for a blank cell, which means it automatically gives me back a list of all of the words. Now let's clean this up a little bit. I'm going to move on to a new sheet. I will go to View and I'll remove the grid lines and the headings. Then I need to link these cells to the previous sheet. So I need this cell here to equal what is in this cell. And I need this cell here to link to whatever is in this cell. And I need this cell to link to this cell. Then I'll just drag these across so they're all linking together. Then I need sheet 2 to show me the results. So that's going to be the list of words in the last filter and enter. And to make this easier to see, I'm going to use WRAPROWS around this. And this will be the vector and then the wrap count will be 5. So it will split across 5 columns. And if I scroll down to the bottom here, you'll see that I get some error values because the list does not evenly divide into 5. To fix this, I'm going to pad it with 2 exclamation marks with nothing in between, and that will hide the error values because I don't want to see them. Now let's test this. So we want words that contain an E, a T and a H, and also do not contain an A or a B. Now you'll notice that in this list of words here, I do get the word teeth. However, if I put an E in here in position 3, the word teeth disappears. And so this is when we get into the whole problem of what happens if you have a letter that appears more than once. So I can demonstrate this here. So we'll have teeth and also theft, and I'll put sheet in here as well. Then I will do equals search, and we will be looking for an E, and we'll be looking for it within this text. So you'll see I end up with 3 in these 2 rows, but I get the number 2 here. And that's because teeth has 2 E's, and there is an E in the second position. And because the search formula searches from left to right, it finds that E first. Which means then when I filter this array here based on the values in this column that are equal to 3, it doesn't give me the word teeth, even though of course that does have an E in the third position. In order to fix this, I need to change the search formula. So we have a start number here, and I need to put the number 3 in here. And then that will force the search formula to ignore the first 2 letters and only start searching from the third letter onwards. And then of course the word teeth does reappear here. So in order to fix these formulas, I need to change the search part here so we have a start number. And that's just going to be the position and enter. And then I can drag this formula across to update it. And you can see that the word teeth reappears, and it's also reappeared here now as this is all linked together. Now at the moment I'm testing this with a shorter list of words, but I can put a longer list of words in here. If I go to this other spreadsheet, I have a list of words here which is almost 13,000 words long. So I can copy this and then go back to the original worksheet and paste this in here. Now of course this means I now need to adjust these formulas. So I need to select all of the new words. Then I will just copy this cell reference here and paste it in here and paste the range in here as well and enter, and that updates everything. I only need to change the first formula because all of the other formulas are linking to the previous one. And now if I go back to sheet 2, you'll see I have way more words in here as options. I just got this list of words from searching for it on the internet. The person who posted this list did make it super clear that while 13,000 words is a lot of words, it's not every 5-letter word in the English language. So it is possible that the answer could be a word which is not in this list. And then of course it's not going to work. So just keep that in mind. Now let's test this. So my first guess was games, and I found that it did include an A, an E and an S, but did not include a G or an M. Then my next guess was pound, and it doesn't include any of these letters, so I can just put the word pound in here. Then I looked for the word trick, and I found that it does include a T and a K, but it does not include an R, an I, or a C. And now I have a nice short list of words, and I can guess one of these. So I guessed skate, and this told me that I had the S and the A and the E all in the correct position, but the K and the T were in the wrong positions, which of course means that the answer has to be steak, and that was the correct answer. Now, I'm not really seriously suggesting that you play Wordle like this. I was just curious to see if it was possible to make something like this in Excel. Okay, and that is everything.